Ever since Jonathan Majors was officially found guilty and fired by Marvel Studios, we have been flooded with news, updates, and speculation from insiders about what is happening now. How is Marvel going to move forward? And in this video, I'm going to try to break down each and everything that a reliable person is saying. This should probably be like multiple videos, but instead I'm doing a massive big old stocking full of Marvel updates and speculation for you guys, because I only really have time to do one video before Christmas. I'm trying to take a little break, you know what I mean? This is all stuff that's coming from reliable sources and insiders. I'm going to try to give all of those people credit as we go along, but this is just a freaking lot. Okay, so first up, let's talk about Kang the Conqueror. Are they recasting? Are they done with the Kang character? Now, I want to start first with what Daniel RPK said on his Patreon. He said here, so as I expected, the idea is to still include Kang in some capacity in the untitled Avengers 5. The plan is for it still to shoot in 2024. Now it's going to be shooting in late 2024. They're searching for a director, and it should be announced in the coming months. And the first Avengers movie of Avengers 5 and 6 will likely have a more limited number of Avengers. Now I want to read a slightly conflicting report from Alex Perez over to the Cosmic Circus. They say here in the article on thecosmiccircus.com, Marvel's plan for him is the equivalent of sweeping it under the rug. Marvel will instead focus on other storylines while they take their time to build up Kang and the multiverse again, slowly behind the scenes. Some sources have even gone beyond that to state that Marvel doesn't intend to address him directly until we are particularly near the end of the multiverse saga. Sources state that there have been discussions and plans for other multiversal villains to step up to the plate in the upcoming phases. This is, of course, in an attempt to take control of the multiversal-sized vacuum left in the absence of Kang the Conqueror and his variants. But make no mistake, for better or worse, Marvel ultimately still intends to close out the multiverse saga with a Kang variant as their final villain. Now I want to tell you what Cryptic HD Quality said on Twitter. And this is actually in me talking about Daniel's first initial report. And he said here, temporarily diminishing his visibility to tease an old antagonist. And then he expanded in our conversation and said Kang will still play a part for a while, but whatever they're planning, this guy will absolve Kang's role and will slowly become the new focus. Okay, so let's stop for a second there, because in Daniel's initial report, he kind of made it seem like they're still going to be doing Kang. And although that is technically true, both Alex and Cryptic HD are both saying that they're going away from Kang, that they're going to be sweeping Kang under the rug. And I find it interesting that both of those other guys are saying that there's plans for Marvel to introduce other villains from throughout the multiverse. It seemed like Cryptic HD was focusing on a singular villain from the past of the MCU, and Alex Perez was just more or less saying that multiple different multiversal villains will sort of fill the void that is left from the Council of Kang. So it really does seem like the ending for Loki season 2 was to pivot the story away from the Council of Kangs and from Kang variants. It is very likely that was already happening. And in the last update video I did about this, I speculated that when Michael Waldron was brought on to replace Jeff Loveness for the Kang dynasty, it was because they were sort of skipping all of the Council of Kang stuff, the Kang dynasty stuff, and instead we're just going to go right to the Beyonder. This is all based on a rumor that the Kang variant at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was sucked into the quantum crystal engine thingy and would emerge again later on in the cycle as the Beyonder, a Kang variant with the powers of the Beyonders or from the Beyondverse or something like that. And so it seems like they're still doing that, and perhaps instead of having Council of Kang members as villains in the next coming films and in the next coming years, you will instead get multiversal variants of villains. This clearly could include Doctor Doom, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that there were plans for Doctor Doom in Secret Wars regardless. And I'm definitely deep into speculation territory here, but to me, it kind of feels like they might just lean into multiversal villains and really just show a chaotic fighting for supremacy, you know, the sort of Game of Worlds from Jonathan Hickman's Time Runs Out event that predated and preluded his Secret Wars. Like, essentially, you'll just have a bunch of crazy different people in the multiverse trying to fight to destroy other universes, to save their own, and to sort of conquer the multiverse. Now, I have even more to say about this. I'll probably do a video, or we'll talk about this on stream next week, guys, because there's other stuff in here that implies to me that, like, Secret Wars 1 may well be verse the villains 2, and then the Beyonder comes in at the end of that, and then Secret Wars Part 2 is sort of everybody fighting against the Beyonder. But, you know, we'll talk about that more in a second. But as far as what's going on with Kang, it seems like, yes, they are going to recast, but they're essentially going to sweep Kang under the rug for likely multiple projects and for multiple years. So whoever they recast, like, maybe it's an old Denzel as this older variant of Kang, this like Beyonder version of Kang. Well, you don't even have to announce that until years later when you finally get to Secret Wars, maybe even Secret Wars Part 2. Now, the next thing that a lot of people are reporting is that Secret Wars is that Part 2 movie. There was speculation about this for months and months and months, all the way back to the beginning of this year even. There were rumors that you were going to have a 2-part Secret Wars movie. It was described this week by Jeff Snyder as this 5 to 6 hour epic film that will have a year-long intermission. And if you go back to what Daniel said about the movie shooting at the end of next year, not the beginning of next year, I think that implies a lot of scripting reworking, likely even further diminishing the role of Kang, and obviously not having Jonathan Majors in that script at all. Now, another thing I want to mention here is that Alex Perez is hinting that he believes Secret Wars will be delayed. And while I do think that's possible, if Daniel's correct and it's shooting, at least the first part of it is shooting at the end of next year, well, then I personally think the first part of Secret Wars will come out sooner rather than later. And one thing that's kind of uncomfortable to talk about here, but it is unfortunately a reality, is the fact that Kevin Feige wants to shoot a lot with very old actors, like your Ian McKellen's, your Sir Patrick Stewart's, and the longer he puts that off, the closer those guys to get to retirement, or, you know, just unfortunately not being around anymore. We've seen a lot of tragic deaths happen, you know, within people of that age group over the past couple of years. So it just is what it is. And I think just for the sake of trying to get this thing going as fast as possible, like getting the hype back, I personally believe Feige will get to Secret Wars, at least Part 1, and he'll get to that next Avengers thing very close to where it is currently scheduled. I think that is a high priority for him. I would even go as far as to suggest that I think a lot of what's happened over the last couple of years is because Feige has been primarily focused on pulling together what he needs for those movies, for the Secret Wars movies. Okay, next thing we got to talk about is the Mutants. A lot of crazy reports here over the course of this week when it comes to what Kevin Feige wants to do with the Mutants and the X-Men. Let's first begin with Daniel RPK. Daniel RPK had initially said that the X-Men reboot would not include Magneto at all. That was a lie. He was lying to us about that, and he even told me privately that he kind of did this just to trigger people like me. Not fucking funny, Daniel. Not fucking funny at all. But regardless, days later, he updated it and basically explained that Marvel wants to do a Brotherhood of Mutants movie, and they will indeed have Magneto. Magneto will be a part of the new X-Men in the MCU on 616. Let's go. And on top of that, others and Daniel are talking about several new Mutants focused projects, and a lot of people are suggesting that the next saga is going to be a mutant focused saga. Daniel told me there's at least 4 other projects out there that would be some kind of X-Men project, some kind of Brotherhood of Mutants project, a project called Children of the Vault, which is really interesting, and we'll talk more about that later. I've heard Alpha Flight thrown around, you know, not really sure if that's actually going to come to pass, but it just seems like they're going to be doing a whole bunch of mutant movies and teams and projects. And there's been a lot of discussion about how the Avengers will have sort of a diminished role in this coming phase, in the next phase, and the mutants will just get that focus. Now I want to read from the big article that the Cosmic Circus dropped yesterday. This is of course coming from Alex Perez. It says here, we can confirm from our sources that there have been discussions about mutants having a more pronounced role in the upcoming phase of the multiverse saga than initially anticipated. This is in hopes of establishing mutants in a more meaningful way on 616 before the conclusion of the saga. Some ideas include a mutant series on Disney Plus focusing on individual stories for several mutants, a la What If, or an X-Men film under the Marvel Studios brand down the road prior to Avengers Secret Wars. According to one source, another idea that's been tossed around involves an Avengers vs. X-Men film set between the members of 616 Avengers and the X-Men. However, it's still too early to discuss as the X-Men have not made their way into the 616 universe just yet. Okay, so let's stop and let's talk about that for a second. Now, there have been a lot of rumors that Feige did want to do an entire saga based on mutants, but many of us thought that was going to be in a post-Secret Wars world. And what Alex is reporting is that there have been discussions to sort of do that a lot faster, to bring the X-Men into the 616 while you're still setting up Secret Wars and go for mutants hardcore right away. Now, you can kind of see some of those seeds being planted. You have your Captain America 4 movie, which was going to involve adamantium. This is all connected to the Tiamat Island. So it kind of seemed like, okay, yeah, you'd get some Logan stuff, some Weapon X stuff sort of set up there. We obviously have Kamala Khan and Namor as mutants in the current 616 MCU, but other than that, we don't know where any of them are. And to be perfectly clear, it had appeared by all accounts from all insiders that it was just going to remain that way until after Secret Wars and within the new MCU post-soft reboot. That is when Kevin Feige was going to establish the X-Men. So look, I just gotta say, I think this is a brilliant idea. Why freaking wait? Many of us have been yelling that for years, like since 2019. We've been like, wait a minute, why not just put the X-Men, just a few, like here and there? Like, what are you doing? You have the X-Men. Why are you waiting? So it kind of seems like Marvel's considering just throwing them in there, or I guess the better way to say it is like doing what they were gonna do just a little bit quicker. Now we're getting into some deep speculative territory right now, but to me, with discussions of bringing in the X-Men and the mutants sooner, that sort of feels like it's also designed to sort of fill the void of what Kang was going to be. Marvel was going to go super hard on Kang, and they were going to have a lot of Kang and time travel kind of stuff in the next few years of movies. This was, of course, to help set up Secret Wars. But now that that's gone, maybe now you put X-Men in there just to have a lot of cool stuff that fans are getting excited about, as you are also building up this multiversal thing. I actually think it's possible that they might be doing reshoots on Captain America Brave New World and inserting more mutants, more X-Men, maybe putting some really cool stuff there because they've just decided like, no, it's time. We've got to go for it. And maybe they'll do the same thing with the Thunderbolts. Not really sure. We'll talk more about like sort of separate stories that Marvel wants to do in just a second here. But I just want to crystallize this point. I want to just really stop and like get this across. Again, this is speculation, but if we consider that Marvel has a ton of stuff that's already in production, stuff like Ironheart that they're going to do extensive reshoots on in 2024 to get ready for 2025, and we know that they're thinking about bringing the mutants in sooner. We know that they need hype. They need to do exciting things. I would love for them to start putting in mutants and X-Men and crazy stuff like that in the already slated, like already shot projects that they're gonna remake anyway. I've been on this big campaign of like, just cancel that stuff. Like, just cancel it, man. It's coming out of a bad era. It's not connected to anything. It's just so phase 4, like we're all over it. Cancel these projects and just do all the Secret Wars stuff. But I must say, if they take the route of sprinkling a little X-Men here, a little X-Men there, it might just do it for me. Like if Gambit was in freaking Echo as example, that would be awesome, and I would watch Echo. I would do that. It does seem like they've got good story ideas, they've got good characters, they just need to execute on these things and have a proper flow of like different shows and or movies that feel like we're following those characters along on an actual story. Now, some of the things that I absolutely love is this supposed handling of Kang, like the idea of sweeping Kang and the variants under the rug. I think a good idea. I'd prefer if we just went into Doctor Doom, but having all kinds of villains from the multiverse could be really fun. This could open up the door for characters like King Thanos from a different universe, running a cabal that's a big threat to the entirety of the multiverse. You could have a crazy Earth X Magneto dude who rules that world and that universe and is trying to take out other universes to save his own. You could have a crazy Doctor Doom, a crazy Ultron, a freaking Hydra Captain America, an evil variant of Tony Stark. There's all kinds of fun ideas that you could do, and I hope this means they're just going to fully crack into the sandbox that is the multiverse and do some really interesting things, because every single thing I just mentioned is far more interesting to me than seeing another Jonathan Majors Kang variant. I'm sorry. So that's really cool. I think that's a huge W, the way they're supposedly handling Kang, and I won't be mad if we get that Beyonder Kang down the line and he's absolutely awesome. That would be cool with me as well. The mutant plans are interesting to say the least. I still think that female focus thing is happening. Maybe Daniel's just trolling in the same way he was trolling about Magneto. I love the way that Magneto's going to play this big role. He's going to be a Brotherhood of Mutant movie. That is freaking crazy. Multiple projects, a mutant saga. Fascinating stuff. More stuff to speculate on that in the future. The idea of them going for mutants a lot faster in the 616, I like that as well, although I don't think you can rush Avengers vs. X-Men. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you can rush that. So overall, guys, I think they've got some good plans. Like, this is actually good stuff I'm actually excited about, and I really do think Marvel has all the tools, everything they need to turn this around. They just have to execute. Of course, let me know your thoughts on all these updates. I know it's crazy. We'll talk about it when I get back to streaming after Christmas. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.